The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring is a 2001 epic fantasy adventure film directed by Peter Jackson, based on the first volume of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. The film is the first installment in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and was produced by Barry M. Osborne, Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Tim Sanders, and written by Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Jackson. The film features an ensemble cast including Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Liv Tyler, Viggo Mortensen, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett, John Rhys-Davies, Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, Orlando Bloom, Christopher Lee, Hugo Weaving, Sean Bean, Ian Holm, and Andy Serkis. It was followed by The Two Towers, 2002, and The Return of the King, 2003. Set in Middle-earth, the story tells of the Dark Lord Sauron, who was seeking the One Ring. The ring has found its way to the young hobbit Frodo Baggins. The fate of Middle-earth hangs in the balance as Frodo and 8 companions who form the Fellowship of the Ring begin their journey to Mount Doom in the land of Mordor, the only place where the ring can be destroyed. The Fellowship of the Ring was financed and distributed by American studio New Line Cinema, but filmed and edited entirely in Jackson's native New Zealand, concurrently with the other two parts of the trilogy. It premiered on December 10, 2001 at the Odeon Leicester Square in London and was theatrically released on December 19, 2001 in the United States, and on December 20, 2001 in New Zealand. The film was highly acclaimed by critics and fans alike, who considered it to be a landmark in filmmaking and any achievement in the fantasy film genre. It grossed $887.8 million worldwide, making it the second highest-grossing film of 2001 and the fifth highest-grossing film of all time at the time of its release. 5. The Fellowship of the Ring is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential fantasy films ever made. The film received numerous accolades. At the 74th Academy Awards, it was nominated for 13 awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor for McKellen, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Original Song for IDB and Best Sound, winning 4, Best Cinematography, Best Makeup, Best Original Score, and Best Visual Effects. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is a 1966 Italian epic spaghetti western movie coordinated by Sergio Leone and featuring Clint Eastwood as the good, Lee Van Cleef as the bad, and Eli Wallach as the ugly. Its screenplay was composed by Agent Scarpelli, Luciano Vincenzoni and Leone, dependent on a story by Vincenzoni and Leone. Chief of Photography Tonino Delli was answerable for the film's broad widescreen cinematography, and Ennio Morricone formed the film's score including its principal subject. It is an Italian-drove creation with co-makers in Spain, West Germany and the United States. The film is known for Leone's utilization of long shots and close-up cinematography, just as his particular utilization of brutality, strain, and expressive gunfights. The plot rotates around 3 gunfighters contending to discover fortune in a covered reserve of Confederate gold in the midst of the vicious confusion of the American Civil War, while taking part in numerous fights and duels along the way. The film was the third joint effort among Leone and Clint Eastwood, and the second with Lee Van Cleef. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was promoted as the third and last portion in the Dollars trilogy, following A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. The film was a budgetary achievement, netting over $25 million in the cinema world, and is credited with having slung Eastwood into fame. Because of general objection to the spaghetti western kind at that point, basic gathering of the film following its discharge was blended, yet it increased basic approval in later years. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is presently observed as one of the best and most powerful Western motion pictures at any point made. Tarantino composed Pulp Fiction in 1992 and 1993, fusing scenes that Averi initially composed for True Romance, 1993. Its plot happens out of sequential request. The film is additionally self-referential from its initial minutes, starting with the title card that gives 2-word reference meanings of MASH. Significant screen time is dedicated to monologues and easygoing discussions with varied discourse uncovering each character's points of view on a few subjects, and the film includes an amusing mix of diversion and solid viciousness. TriStar Pictures supposedly turned down the content as excessively crazy. Miramax co-administrator Harvey Weinstein was captivated, be that as it may, and the film turned into the main that Miramax completely financed. MASH Fiction won the Palme d'Or at the 1994 Cannes Film Festival, and was a significant basic and business achievement. It was named for 7 honors at the 67th Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and won Best Original Screenplay. It turned Travolta, Jackson, and Thurman Academy Award designations and helped their professions. Its turn of events, advertising, dispersion, and productivity sweepingly affected autonomous film. MASH Fiction is broadly viewed as Tarantino's artful culmination, with specific commendation for its screenwriting. The self-reflexivity, capricious structure, and broad tribute and pastiche have driven pundits to portray it as a touchstone of postmodern film. It is regularly viewed as a social watershed, impacting motion pictures and other media that embraced components of its style. In 2008, Entertainment Weekly named it the best film since 1983 and it has showed up on numerous pundits' arrangements of the best movies at any point made. In 2013, Pulp Fiction was chosen for conservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as socially, truly, or tastefully huge. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King is a 2003 epic dream experience movie coordinated by Peter Jackson, in view of the third volume of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. The film is the third portion in the Lord of the Rings set of 3 and was delivered by Barry M. Osborne, Jackson, and Fran Walsh, and composed by Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Jackson. The film includes a gathering cast including Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Liv Tyler, Viggo Mortensen, Sean Astin, Kate Blanchett, John Rhys-Davies, Bernard Hill, Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, Orlando Bloom, Hugo Weaving, Miranda Otto, David Wenham, Carl Urban, John Noble, Andy Serkis, Ian Holm, and Sean Bean. It was gone before by The Fellowship of the Ring, 2001, and The Two Towers, 2002. Proceeding with the plot of The Two Towers, Frodo, Sam and Gollum are making their last route toward Mount Doom and Mordor so as to obliterate the One Ring, uninformed of Gollum's actual expectations, while Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli and the rest are consolidating powers against Sauron and his armies in Minas Tirith. The Return of the King was financed and conveyed by American studio New Line Cinema, yet shot and altered completely in Jackson's local New Zealand, simultaneously with the other 2 pieces of the set of 3. It debuted on December 1, 2003 at the Embassy Theatre in Wellington and was dramatically discharged on December 17, 2003 in the United States, and on December 18, 2003 in New Zealand. The film was exceptionally acclaimed by pundits and fans the same, who believed it to be a milestone in filmmaking and a dream film classification. It netted $1.142 billion around the world, making it the most noteworthy earning film of 2003 and the second most noteworthy netting film ever at the hour of its discharge, just as being just the second film in history to cross the $1 billion imprint at the worldwide film industry. The Return of the King is broadly viewed as one of the best and most compelling dream films at any point made. The movie got various honors. At the 76th Academy Awards it won each of the 11 honors for which it was selected: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, Best Original Score, Best Original Song for Into the West, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Visual Effects, subsequently tying for the record for the most Academy Awards won by a solitary movie and holding the record for the most elevated decisive victory at the Oscars.
Schindler's List is a 1993 American historical drama film directed and co-produced by Steven Spielberg and written by Steven Zaillian. It is based on the novel Schindler's Ark by Australian novelist Thomas Keneally. The film follows Oskar Schindler, a Sudeten-German businessman who together with his wife Emily Schindler saved more than 1,000 mostly Polish Jewish refugees from the Holocaust by employing them in his factories during World War II. It stars Liam Neeson as Schindler, Ralph Fiennes as SS officer Amon Goth, and Ben Kingsley as Schindler's Jewish accountant Itzhak Stern. Ideas for a film about the Sendler Juden, Schindler Jews, were proposed as early as 1963. Poldek Pfefferberg, one of the Sendler Juden, made it his life's mission to tell Schindler's story. Spielberg became interested when executive Sidney Sheinberg sent him a book review of Schindler's Arkansas. Universal Pictures bought the rights to the novel, but Spielberg, unsure if he was ready to make a film about the Holocaust, tried to pass the project to several directors before deciding to direct it. Principal photography took place in Krakow, Poland, over 72 days in 1993. Spielberg shot in black and white and approached the film as a documentary. Cinematographer Janusz Kaminski wanted to create a sense of timelessness. John Williams composed the score, and violinist Itzhak Perlman performed the main theme. Schindler's List premiered on November 30, 1993, in Washington, D.C., and was released on December 15, 1993, in the United States. Often listed among the greatest films ever made, it was also a box office success, earning $322 million worldwide on a $22 million budget. It was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, winning 7, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Score, and won numerous other awards, including 7 BAFTAs and 3 Golden Globes. In 2007, the American Film Institute ranked Schindler's List 8th on its list of the 100 best American films of all time. The Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2004. 12 Angry Men is a 1957 American court show movie coordinated by Sidney Lumet, adjusted from a teleplay of a similar name by Reginald Rose. This court dramatization recounts to the account of a jury of 12 men as they purposeful the conviction or vindication of a 18-year-old defendant. Note 1, based on sensible uncertainty, compelling the attendants to scrutinize their ethics and qualities. 12 Angry Men investigates numerous strategies of agreement building and the troubles experienced in the process among this gathering of men whose scope of characters adds to the force and strife. It likewise investigates the force one individual needs to inspire change. The jury individuals are recognized distinctly by number, no names are uncovered until a trade of discourse at the end. The film powers the characters and crowd to assess their own mental self-portrait through watching the character, encounters, and activities of the members of the jury. The film is additionally eminent for its practically restrictive utilization of one set, where everything except 3 minutes of the film happens. In 2007, the film was chosen for the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being socially, truly, or stylishly critical. The film was chosen as the second best court show ever by the American Film Institute during their AFI's 10 Top 10 rundown. The Dark Knight is a 2008 superhuman movie coordinated, co-created, and co-composed by Christopher Nolan. In light of the DC Comics character Batman, the film is the second portion of Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy and a continuation of 2005's Batman Begins, featuring Christian Bale and upheld by Michael Caine, Heath Ledger, Gary Oldman, Aaron Eckhart, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Morgan Freeman. In the film, Bruce Wayne, Batman, Bale, Police Lieutenant James Gordon, Oldman, and District Attorney Harvey Dent, Eckhart, structure a union to disassemble sorted-out wrongdoing in Gotham City, yet are menaced by a revolutionary driving force known as the Joker, Ledger, who tries to subvert Batman's impact and turn the city to tumult. Nolan's motivation for the film was the Joker's comic book debut in 1940, the 1988 realistic novel The Killing Joke, and the 1996 arrangement The Long Halloween, which retold Harvey Dent's starting point. The dull knight epithet was first applied to Batman in Batman No. 1, 1940, in a story composed by Bill Finger. 4-5, The Dark Knight was shot basically in Chicago, just as in a few different areas in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Hong Kong. The film was the principal standard element to in part use IMAX 70mm cameras, with Nolan utilizing them for 28 minutes of the film, including the Joker's first appearance. Warner Brothers at first made a viral showcasing effort for The Dark Knight, creating limited-time sites and trailers featuring screen captures of Ledger as the Joker. Record kicked the bucket on January 22, 2008, a few months after he finished shooting and a half-year before the film's discharge from a poisonous mix of doctor-prescribed medications, prompting exceptional consideration from the press and film opening up to the world. Upon its discharge on July 18, 2008, The Dark Knight accomplished noteworthy basic and business achievement. With over $1 billion in income around the world, it turned into the most elevated netting film of 2008 and is the 46th most elevated earning film ever, unadjusted for swelling. Fourth at the hour of discharge, it additionally set the precedent for most elevated netting local opening with $158 million, a record it held for 3 years. The film got 8 Academy Award selections. It won the honor for Best Sound Editing, and Ledger was after death granted Best Supporting Actor. The Dark Knight is viewed as probably the best film of its decade and a standout amongst other superhuman movies at any point made. The Dark Knight Rises, the last film in the set of 3, was discharged on July 20, 2012. The Godfather Part 2 is a 1974 American epic wrongdoing movie created and coordinated by Francis Ford Coppola from the screenplay co-composed with Mario Puzo, featuring Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, Diane Keaton, Robert De Niro, Talia Shire, Morgana King, John Cazale, Mariana Hill, and Lee Strasberg. It is the second portion in the Godfather set of 3. In part dependent on Puzo's 1969 novel The Godfather, the film is both continuation and prequel to The Godfather, introducing equal dramatizations. One gets the 1958 story of Michael Corleone, Pacino, the new don of the Corleone family, securing the privately owned company in the fallout of an attempt to kill he. The prequel covers the excursion of his dad, Vito Corleone, De Niro, from his Sicilian adolescence to the establishing of his family endeavor in New York City. Following the accomplishment of the primary film, Paramount Pictures started building up a follow-up to the film, with a significant part of a similar cast and group returning. Coppola, who was given more control on the film, had needed to make both a spin-off and a prequel to the film to recount to the narrative of the ascent of Vito and the fall of Michael. Head photography started in October 1973 and enveloped with June 1974. The Godfather Part 2 debuted in New York City on December 12, 1974, and was discharged in the United States on December 20, 1974, accepting separated surveys from pundits. Yet its notoriety, be that as it may, improved quickly, and it before long turned into the subject of basic reassessment. It netted between $48 to $88 million worldwide on a $13 million spending plan. The film was named for 11 Academy Awards at the 47th Academy Awards and turned into the primary spin-off of win for Best Picture. Its 6 Oscar wins likewise included Best Director for Coppola, Best Supporting Actor for De Niro, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Coppola and Puzo. Pacino won the BAFTA Award for Best Actor and was assigned for the Academy Award for Best Actor. Some have regarded it better than The Godfather. Both Part 2 and its ancestor remain profoundly persuasive movies, particularly in the criminal kind, and are viewed as among the best movies ever. In 1997, the American Film Institute positioned it as the 32nd most noteworthy film in American film history, and it held this position 10 years after the fact. It was chosen for safeguarding in the U.S. National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 1993, being regarded socially, verifiably, or tastefully noteworthy. The last film in the set of three, The Godfather Part 3, was discharged in 1990. The Godfather is a 1972 American wrongdoing movie coordinated by Francis Ford Coppola and delivered by Albert S. Bronst, in light of Mario Puzo's top-of-the-line novel of a similar name. It is the principal portion in The Godfather set of three. The film includes a gathering cast including Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, Richard Castellano, Robert Duvall, Sterling Hayden, John Marley, Richard Conte, and Diane Keaton. The story, crossing from 1945 to 1955, annals the Corleone family under Patriarch Vito Corleone, Brando, concentrating on the change of one of his children, Michael Corleone, Pacino, from hesitant family pariah to savage mafia chief. Central Pictures acquired the rights to the novel at the cost of $80,000, before it picked up prominence. Studio administrators experienced difficulty finding an executive. Their initial barely any up-and-comers turned down the situation before Coppola marked on to coordinate the film. They and Coppola differ over the throwing for a few characters, specifically, Vito and Michael. Recording occurred basically on the spot around New York and in Sicily, and was finished in front of timetable. The melodic score was formed mainly by Nino Rota, with extra pieces via Carmine Coppola. The Godfather debuted at the Laus State Theatre on March 14, 1972, and was discharged more extensive in the United States on March 24, 1972. It was the most noteworthy netting film of 1972, and was for a period the most noteworthy earning film at any point made, with a gross between $246 million and $287 million in the cinematic world. The movie got all-inclusive approval from pundits and crowds, with acclaim going toward the exhibitions of its cast, especially by Brando and Pacino, the coordinating, screenplay, cinematography, altering, score, and depiction of the mafia. The film renewed Brando's vocation, which was in decay during the 1960s. Notwithstanding featuring in movies, for example, Last Tango in Paris, Superman, and Apocalypse Now, Brando was an impetus in this film for the effective professions of Coppola, Pacino, and other relative newcomers in the cast. At the 45th Academy Awards, the film won the Oscars for Best Picture, Best Actor, Brando, and Best Adapted Screenplay, for Puzo and Coppola. What's more, the 7 other Oscar designations included Pacino, Caan, and Duvall for Best Supporting Actor, and Coppola for Best Director. Since its discharge, The Godfather has been generally viewed as one of the best and most powerful movies at any point made, particularly in the hoodlum classification. It was chosen for protection in the U.S. National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 1990, being esteemed socially, verifiably, or tastefully critical, and is positioned the second most prominent film in American film, behind Citizen Kane, by the American Film Institute. It was trailed by continuations The Godfather Part 2, 1974, and The Godfather Part 3, 1990.
The Shawshank Redemption is a 1994 American show movie composed and coordinated by Frank Darabont, in view of the 1982 Stephen King novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. It recounts the narrative of investor Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins, who was condemned to life in Shawshank State Penitentiary for the homicides of his significant other and her darling, in spite of his cases of amnesty. Over the accompanying 2 decades, he gets to know a kindred detainee, Stash Ranarellis Redretting, Morgan Freeman, and gets instrumental in an illegal tax avoidance activity drove by the jail superintendent Samuel Norton, Bob Gunton. William Sadler, Clancy Brown, Gil Bellows, and James Whitmore show up in supporting jobs. Darabont bought the film rights to King's story in 1987, however advancement didn't start until 5 years after the fact, when he composed the content over an 8-week time frame. 14 days in the wake of presenting his content to Castle Rock Entertainment, Darabont made sure about a $25 million spending plan to create The Shawshank Redemption, which began pre-creation in January 1993. While the film is set in Maine, head photography occurred from June to August 1993 for the most part in Mansfield, Ohio, with the Ohio State Reformatory filling in as the eponymous prison. The venture pulled in numerous stars of the ideal opportunity for the job of Andy, including Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and Kevin Costner. Thomas Newman gave the film's score. While The Shawshank Redemption got positive surveys on its discharge, especially for its story and the exhibitions of Robbins and Freeman, it was a film industry dissatisfaction, acquiring just $16 million during its underlying dramatic run. Numerous reasons were referred to for its disappointment at that point, including rivalry from movies, for example, Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump, to the general disagreeability of jail films, absence of female characters, and even the title, which was viewed as mistaking for crowds. It proceeded to get different honor selections, including 7 Academy Award assignments, and a showy redischarge that, joined with global takings, expanded this film industry gross to $58.3 million. More than 320,000 VHS duplicates were sent all through the United States, independent on its honor selections and informal. It got one of the top leased movies of 1995. The communicate rights were procured following the acquisition of Castle Rock by Turner Broadcasting System, and it was indicated normally on the TNT range beginning in 1997, further expanding its notoriety. It is currently considered by numerous individuals to be perhaps the best film of the 1990s. Starting at 2017, the film is still communicated consistently, and is well known in a few nations, with crowd individuals and famous people referring to it as a wellspring of motivation, and naming the film as a most loved in different reviews. In 2015, the United States Library of Congress chose the film for safeguarding in the National Film Registry, discovering it socially, generally, or tastefully critical.